Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about history. I had a deja vu experience yesterday which took me back to 1968. I was out hiking yesterday morning on some granite boulders out west of Cheyenne, Wyoming. It was a fantastic day and I was feeling very elated. It all seemed so familiar, and then I remembered back to 1968. I was at summer camp in South Park, Colorado. On Sunday mornings, they held church services on granite rocks just like the ones I was hiking on yesterday. The rocks, the trees, the quiet, and the scenery were all very similar. My feeling yesterday was the same peaceful, happy experience which I remembered from more than 50 years ago. I'm going to show some video from my hike, but first I'm going to tell a story. In 1968, the American bison was almost extinct. But the commercial meat industry rescued them, and now there's lots of bison being raised for food. One more success story for capitalism and meat eaters. This was the bunkhouse which I lived in 1968. I went back there for a visit last summer. All of the bunkhouses and tents were named after 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado. My bunkhouse was inside this door and was called Mount Huron. This was our bunkhouse photo. That was me right there in front of Counselor Greg Dean and next to my best friend Rob Slabaugh from Nebraska. Next door was another good friend, Trip Friendly, whose father was the producer of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Trip is now a fairly successful Hollywood producer himself. This was all of the kids and staff who were at that camp session. It was an eventful summer. One of the campers got lost in the woods for 2 weeks about a quarter-mile off the trail. But he managed to survive because he had learned survival skills. Unfortunately, his directional skills weren't as good. He should have been easily able to find his way back. Most of my time at camp was spent here. This was the shooting range where I learned to shoot rifles. I took several National Rifle Association safety classes and learned to be a very safe shooter. I also learned to be a very good shooter as I spent almost the entire summer shooting. Unfortunately, they've shut down the rifle range now because of political correctness. Kids don't learn how to handle rifles safely anymore. Now most of them learn their rifle skills from violent video games. If every kid took National Rifle Association safety training, the world would be a safer place. After I left the camp last June, I got treated to these two pronghorns sparring along the highway. Now let's talk about some other things which were going on in the 1968-1969 time frame. There was a massive epidemic of the H3N2 virus. Globally, the virus killed about 10 times as many people as COVID-19, and in the United States, the death rate was about double COVID-19. This was another strain of the same virus which killed more than 1 million people around the world in the year I was born in 1957. And the H3N2 virus again killed about 80,000 Americans 2 years ago, despite the fact that we had a vaccine for it. The 2018 H3N2 vaccine was believed to be only about 40% effective. The 1968 pandemic went on for a year. But we didn't shut down the world in 2018 or 1968 or 1957. Instead, we had the world's largest concert at Woodstock, New York. Nearly 500,000 people showed up at the concert in 1969. Not much social distancing was going on with that crowd, but a lot of other interesting stuff was. We also sent a man to the moon. Huge crowds packed Florida to watch the launch. Despite the war in Vietnam and the virus, people were full of hope, not fear. The press corps was trying to build the United States up, not destroy it. Those were great memories. Now I'm going to show you the video from yesterday's Flashback Sunday.
snow-covered mountains are home now for me. But my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high, and though it had been so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different songs, and we have just one world, but we live in different worlds. Now the sun's gone to hell, moon riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the stars, in every line in your palm. We're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
Toto remembers the good old days and is looking forward to better days in the future. Visit him on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.